Welcome back to BNC World Headquarters. As the COVID-19 crisis continues to impede businesses from operating, many black business owners find themselves trapped in contractual agreements they can no longer afford.
But there is a legal way out, isn't there? Well, here to discuss the legal options for black businesses, our chief legal correspondent, Dr. Laura McNeil. Welcome again, Doctor. And what are the legal options for black business owners who find themselves in this tough spot?
Thankfully, for black business owners, there is a standard clause that is typically added into their contracts called a force majeure clause. And what this clause says is that in the event that there's an act of God, there's a hurricane or a tornado, or something that prevents you from performing your contractual duties, that you can get out of that contract. So it's a defense for not performing that contract, which, considering COVID-19, a lot of black business owners are finding themselves in this position.
Well, Laura, I'd like to know whether we can all use that, actually, to tell you the truth. But how would they know whether or not they can use a force majeure?
They'll need to look at their original contract they signed. It'll be very clear. It'll say force majeure in their contract, and they're going to want to read the terms. Some force majeure clauses are very broad, and they'll just say an act of God or unforeseen circumstances, whereas other clauses are very specific. They'll say in the event of a war, a terrorist attack. And so what's most important is that they have to be able to establish, once they find that clause, that it's impossible for them to complete the responsibilities or duties underneath that contract.
All right, so let's now go into the courts. What do the courts consider when they decide whether to allow a business owner to use this clause in order to void a contract?
That's a great question, because this is where it's so important for business owners that are not able to complete their contract obligations. Document, document, document. You're going to have to make a case before the court that essentially shows I've done everything I can within my power. You know, I have this number of employees that are quarantined, an X number that are out. My supplier is no longer delivering the goods I need to complete this house. And so they're going to look at the totality of the circumstances. They're going to look at, based on everything that you have distributed or demonstrated to the judge, that you are not able to complete those contractual obligations. So again, the more evidence you have showing that, the more likely the judge is going to rule in your favor.
Interesting. And what about the consequences for using this clause? Can it reflect badly on your credit or anything else like that?
Excellent question. Thankfully, no, it does not reflect poorly on your credit. So I would definitely encourage individuals to try to use this contract clause before considering things that are more drastic, like bankruptcy, which will have some negative implications on your credit report. So it's really just there because the law does not want you to try to have to perform the impossible. And we're seeing in these COVID-19 times that a lot of business owners are in this position where they simply can't perform the obligations of their contract.
Now, flipping the script a little bit, Laura, what reasons are there, if any at all, that a business owner can be stopped from using this legal tool in order to leave a contract?
Really, the only thing is if they're not able to establish, again, that threshold to convince the judge that they've done everything in their power. For instance, if a restaurant has been shut down for in-room dining, well, have they tried other things? Are they trying takeout to generate revenue to fulfill those contractual obligations? So really the only reason is if you don't meet that evidentiary basis, or rather the amount of proof needed, so the judge says, you know what, this is not their fault, this is beyond their control, I'm going to let them out of that contract.
All right, sounds good. Very interesting. Dr. Laura McNeil, our chief legal correspondent. Thanks so much.
Thank you.